Third, the waiting period in the case of divorce is 3 periods. It is confirmed by the text of the book and sunnah as well as consensus that one cannot take one's wife back in khula. It is also confirmed by the sunnah and the statements of the companions that the waiting period is just one menses for khula. And it is confirmed by a text that it is permissible after 2 divorces and that the third divorce could occur after it. There is a very clear manifestation that it is not a type of divorce. Allah has said, the divorce is twice after that. Either you retain her on reasonable terms or release her with kindness, and it is not lawful for you men to take back from your wives any of your dower which you have given them, except when both parties fear that they would be unable to keep the limits ordained by Allah. Then if you fear that they would not be able to keep the limits ordained by Allah, then there is no sin on either of them if she gives back the dower or a part of it for her separation, even though that may not be specific for the one who has divorced twice, as it covers her as well as others. It is not permissible that the pronoun refers to an antecedent that was not mentioned, and that is left being free of mention. Either it is to be specified by what precedes it, or it will apply to others as well. Then Allah says, and if he has divorced her the third time, then she is not lawful unto him thereafter until she has married another husband. This definitely covers anyone who was divorced after she ransomed herself, as well as the one who had been divorced twice, as these two have been mentioned as antecedents and must be covered by the text. This is how Ibn Abbas understood it. He who was the translator of the Quran, for whom the Prophet personally prayed to understand the meaning of the Quran, and there is no doubt that such a supplication was responded to, since the ruling of the woman freeing herself are different from the ruling of divorce. This indicates that it is of a separate genus. This is what the text, analogy, and statements of the companions call for. The waiting period. Its definition, the Arabic word for the waiting period, comes from a word meaning to reckon or count. In other words, it refers to the days and period that the woman reckon and count. As a legal term, it refers to the period of time that the woman must refrain from marriage after the death of her husband or after separation from her husband. It is reckoned by giving birth, menses, or months. Its types. The widow whose husband has just died is to enter a waiting period of 4 months and 10 days, regardless of whether the marriage had been consummated. Allah says, and those of you who die and leave wives behind them, the wives shall wait as regards their marriage for 4 months and 10 days. The expiation to this is if the woman was pregnant. Then her waiting period is until the time she gives birth. Allah says, and for those who are pregnant, whether they are divorced or their husbands are dead, their waiting period is until they deliver their husbands, their burdens. until they deliver their burdens. Narrated that gave birth one night after her husband's death. She went to the Prophet and asked him for permission to wed. He gave her permission, and so she wedded. The one who is divorced from before consummation has not waiting period. Allah says, O you who believe, when you married believing women and then divorce them before you have sexual intercourse with them, no waiting period have you to count in respect of them. The divorced woman after consummation and pregnant will be in her waiting period until the time she gives birth, Allah says, and for those who are pregnant, whether they are divorced or their husbands are dead, their waiting period is until they deliver their burdens. That he was married to Kulthum. She said to him, please me by a divorce. So he divorced her once he went to the